I'm sure by now you've all heard of the new water paradigm, and that's probably one of the reasons you're here. These people have really blown apart our knowledge of how we can restore the water cycle, but they're going to really open your eyes. And if you haven't heard about it, prepare to get your mind blown. This will change your entire thinking of how we can restore our ecosystems. We got Australia, Diego from Chile, Michael from South Africa. Fantastic. Well, folks, we can get started here. And just to give you a little background, make sure, turn off your phones, turn off your distractions. You want to be present, and let everybody know this is going to be recorded. So afterwards, everyone's going to get the presentation after. And if you have questions, we're going to answer them at the end, but you can type them in the chat box, and some will be answered during the presentation. But if you want to have your questions answered by Martin and Zuzka and Jan and Michael Kravchuk, then raise your hand and we'll get to it after they're done presenting. So Zach, why don't you take it away and we can get started here.
Awesome. And you can also enter those questions into the Q&A as we go, and then we'll pull from there at the end. We've got a really exciting webinar today. When we started Water Stories, one of the biggest reasons was because public policy is so out of sync with the natural landscape and with the potential of landscapes. And everything that we do at Water Stories is really informed by this groundbreaking work of the new water paradigm that was brought into the world by members of the team that we have here today. And it's really an eye-opening way to look at how we're managing water on landscapes, what kind of impacts that creates on the landscape, and how we can align public policy with the future water developments that we need to see happen. And it's really an honor to have Martin Kováč here. He is the Deputy Minister in the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development for the Slovak Republic. So he is a wealth of knowledge and information and experience as far as how to incorporate these ideas into public policy and how to work with governments and development agencies in order to accomplish that. So the webinar today is going to be broken out into 4 different blocks that are going to cover a wide range from big picture down to how to incorporate this into our policy and institutional change. And we'll go back and forth. And then at the end, as Raleigh mentioned, we'll have question and answers. So as you have questions that come up, enter them into the Q&A or into the chat, and we'll get to them at the end. So for starters, Martin, I want to ask you, what was the old water paradigm and what is the new water paradigm for people that have never heard about that before?
Yes, thank you. Good evening to everybody, and good evening, Zach and Riley, and for inviting us. And I'm very happy that this evening my friends joined us, and they will have an opportunity to join the discussion and presentations as well. And those friends are Jan Pokorny from Czech Republic, Zuzka Mulkering from United States, and Michal Kravchuk will join us later. But yes, your question is important. What is old water paradigm and new water paradigm? So new water paradigm was this publication that maybe you remember it is available on the internet. But what was very important was the process before the forming and formulating this new water paradigm, and the process after publishing this new water paradigm. And I would like to share some of these experiences with you. And just to start the debate and the question about this, how important is to have a new approach towards water culture, new water culture, new soil culture, and how it is beneficial for our nations, for our civilization. So I will try to start sharing my presentation. Yes, and please give me a second, and please tell me if everything is okay. Yes. I tried to put it
Perfect.
on. Yes,
it is good to me.
Yeah, so it works. Thank you. So what will be the focus of today? The presentations and discussion will be how we can integrate these principles of new water paradigm in public policy space within our countries on international scale, because really it will be very beneficial to the situation, to our countries. So I will try to go through this in a few steps. First, oil water paradigm was very known because it was business as usual. That was the system when we used water, as there was no end of the water resources. We used underground waters, we used water from rivers, we changed the landscapes, and we thought that weather and rain will be there every day and every year. But many civilizations in the past found that by developing these cultures and systems, finally they were not able to manage the civilizations because there was a deficit of the water. So that was very important, that formulation of the new water paradigm was a process that started some years, and I think many people started to participate on this process. And especially there was a philosopher, I think Mr. Kuhn, who formulated what is paradigm, and we started to formulate on the base of number of indications. But what I will try to say is what is key, what are key findings, key solutions, what were the milestones over the time in timeline, and what is the role of change makers and innovation of public policies, how important it is involvement of citizens and stakeholders participation, and why we need a new water and soil culture. What is a new water paradigm? So if we are going to have a look at the factors of climate change, we see that really an important and significant factor of that climate change is land use change, soil quality, and the way how we manage rainwater. What we can see, we have only one globe, and we have a limited area of the continents, which is only 30% of the surface. But at the same surface, we are all the time, every year, every next year, changing the land use, maybe from forest to agricultural land, from agricultural land to urban areas. We are changing the rivers and we are draining the land. And it had really a lot of impacts, negative impacts on the area where it happened. But finally, it has an impact on the global level, because every square meter of the land is really interconnected with oceans, with the seas. So we are seeing now decreasing of functioning vegetation cover that is not working. It doesn't have enough water. And we see increase of global temperatures, but we see as well increase of sea level rise, but at the same time on the continents we see desertification. So these things speak that there is some imbalance. Before there was more balance, now there is an imbalance, growing imbalance, and we have to see that there are direct links. So what is very important, time and space changes of the precipitation and increasing risks of floods and droughts. And there is an imbalance in the main global water reservoirs. But what is very important is that even if we are doing land use change, and we are doing it really by building new roads, new buildings, in the public sector, we do not have exact system of monitoring the impact of land use and land use change on change of hydrology and change of the climate of that watershed. And it is not only watershed where the change is happening. It is interconnection with oceans, because land is interconnected with oceans within the large water cycle. So this is why it's very important to understand what is the key in managing the resources that we have available. So I'm going back a little bit before the formulation of new water paradigm. And in this really situation in Slovakia in the 90s of the 20th century, Michal Kravčík established an organization named People and Water, and this organization was really providing in this region where this picture is now, when I am presenting, and they presented an alternative project of managing and increasing potential of available water resources. They proposed not to build one big dam, as it was a proposal of a state company, but they proposed that by decentralized rainwater management in the landscape structures and by improving soil health and the regeneration of water and soil in the landscape structures, they will be able to provide more water resources on a permanent base with only 10% of the investment cost, one-time investment cost. So really, Michal Kravčík started an important work, not only on the practical level, but by proposing these alternative solutions. And he tried to communicate with the government, with national parliament, and with local citizens and municipalities. That was very important. And local municipalities really became a driver of protecting the land and protecting the area for living, and they supported this alternative solution on a decentralized base. Later, in 2004, there was a very heavy windstorm in High Tatras in the northern part of Slovakia, and we lost really many thousand hectares of the forest in High Tatras. And immediately after this action, People and Water Organization created a project, and within, I think, next 2 years, they were able to establish a water forest. And this forest was very important because it was not only forest by planting the trees, but they implemented rainwater management measures. So they helped the forest to really grow in a better way, more quickly. And the forest now is really, let's say, adult one, and is a very nice one, prosperous, and we are happy. And this is just a part of the story, how the pieces of the practical experience and the problems of public policy and problem of scientists came to the formulation of new approach towards not only rainwater management, but about managing of water resources available. So another project happened around 2005 in Košice in East Slovakia. In this region, there was a problem with erosion in one part of the city. So after applying these water retention measures and anti-erosion measures, now we have completely stabilized the area with rich biodiversity, and people are happy to walk, the citizens of the city. So when I can summarize what was before this new water paradigm was that Michal Kravčík and People of Water really developed a lot of solutions, blue alternative solutions, to provide alternative way of managing water. And it is not only by one structure, but by multi-structures on decentralized way, supporting natural cycles, and at the same time supporting production capacity, but at the same time supporting ecosystem functions. That was very important. So in 2006, Michal Kravčík met our friend Juraj Kohutiar, and they had a talk that it will be very good if these experiences they will put together in some publication. So this debate really started. But what is very important to say that in year 2000, Michal Kravčík prepared Water for the Third Millennium. It was a special publication that was really formulating, probably for the first time, the knowledge that how important are small water cycles and stability of small water cycles for stability of the large water cycles and stability of the precipitation. So he really started to formulate the scientific aspect, which he really observed on the land. Michael is a civil engineer on water resource management, so he really combined his scientific engineering knowledge and combined it with practical experience. And what was very important, he was supporting this international debate and the national debate, that why it is important to have really this decentralized approach, and why it is beneficial economically, socially, as well as environmentally. And this is something a little bit just behind after publication of New Water Paradigm in 2011. And this is an example of one village, and we have many of these villages in Slovakia, where we exercise anti-erosion measures to stabilize the really deep erosion line in one forest. And this is just an example that we have really, for example, in Slovakia, hundreds thousands of kilometers of such erosion lines, and we have to save them. We have to really manage them, because this erosion line, if it's not treated, this is really like a channel for drainage of the water outside. So we have big potential in this regeneration in forest areas. We have big regeneration potential in agricultural land. In the 1950s and 60s of the 20th century, our country and many other countries in Central Europe really faced a socialistic period of the farming. And that farming caused that there was a removal within 2 or 3 years of old landscape structures, historical landscape structures that were built there for 300-400 years. So immediately after this large scale farming, our country lost these landscape features, and you can imagine how what was the consequence of such a big land plot farming. At the same time, a lot of rivers were really channelized in Slovakia. We can speak about thousands of kilometers. For example, Danube River is shorter, approximately about 150 kilometers. So it has really a lot of impacts on water, how water is really quickly going to the oceans and sea, and an ability of the landscape to manage rainwater in a better way. So that was just an example that there was a lot of practical exercise and experiences before and after publishing the New Water Paradigm. But New Water Paradigm was a really very special time for us, all of us, to work together, these 5 co-authors, because we really tried to formulate these important aspects, and at the same time, we tried to put in the interaction how important is to manage small water cycle on the land, what are the components of the small water cycle, and at the same time, what are the other, let's say, relations, for example, impact of heat if there is not enough water. So, but what I would like to say is, as on this picture, that the people and civilization change on the land 4 big things. If we speak about water cycles, we are managing land plots by sales of the properties, by dividing properties to big, small one, and we change the quality of the soil, we change the plants cover, but at the same time, we restream rainwater. So if you can imagine, we are changing all key components of small water cycle on the land. And this is why it's very important that public policies in every country need to start to monitor how we are changing these components that are heavily impacting the hydrology and the climate. So that is why it's very important to go through this monitoring process. And on this picture, we see what happens if there is lack of the water in the system. For example, in the southern Europe, we have really big problems last year and this year starting again in France, Spain, and other countries. But at the same time, if there is less water in this cycling water, there is more energy produced because this heat island effect. But what is important to say, if there is less precipitation, we have after then very suddenly rain in very torrential rain or heavy rain, but the landscape doesn't have enough time and space to infiltrate this water if there is so much water in a short time. And because the soil health and at the same time landscape structures that are missing. So this is why it's very important to work on these regenerations and to bring new landscape structures that will provide more space and time for rainwater to store and to distribute in more gentle way. And at the same time, we see Northern Europe, for example, if there is more water in higher elevation than in colder parts of the Europe, but at the same time, more extremes as we can see. So, but what is very important, there is a very good message behind all this new water paradigm. And the good message is that once we will recognize this mechanism, why there is destruction of this water cycle and stability of the weather and the climate, because permanent and continuing land use changes, not only in my area, but in surrounding areas, once we will understand that we can slow down the water and we can really improve this water retention capacity of soil and landscape structures, and once we will implement these measures, we will really start to return water back to the small water cycles for higher stability. And that is very good message. And these things works internationally, cross-borderly, and it can work on local, regional level. And very important is that we can really set up goals, set up targets, how we can work on all geographical levels. So what is needed are sustainable cycles. But sustainable cycles means that we are not speaking only about the carbon cycle, but we are speaking about water cycle, about energy cycle, nutrition cycle. And if we speak about energy cycle, I'm not only speaking of electricity or gas, I'm speaking about the safe transformation and distribution of solar energy that is coming to the earth and to the landscape surface. And these things are very close interconnected to circular bioeconomy approach. And if circular bioeconomy approach really starts to work with water cycles and sustainable water cycles, we are on the good road and the way to solve the problems. So if I can say here, new water paradigm really provides a new framework for better use of water, for returning water back to the landscape, for understanding that what is the consequence of my management of the landscape, of big piece of the landscape or small land plot, but it provides us a new water culture, new soil culture, ability to understand that we will be prosperous with production capacity of the land if we will support ecosystem services of the land. A new water paradigm is a good message because it provides us a good roadmap to climate healing, for stability of the global water cycles, integrated approach, and it provides a new economy. Finally, we see that how big interest now is on investing on these ecosystem services, but it's very important to say that this is completely new economical agenda and community stakeholder. So if you see on the right side these three basic functions on the land, important is to say that the ecosystem services, production functions, and utility functions, those are three that works all the time together. But usually, if we speak about agriculture, majority of farmers were trying to focus, and especially big farmers, on production functions of the land. But we have to secure this ecosystem function. We need to renew these ecosystem functions. And at the same time, we need to renew these ecosystem functions in urban areas as well. So I would like to ask now my friend Jan Pokorny from Czech Republic. Jan, please be so kind and join us, and we will be very happy if you can share with us your knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you very much for invitation. It's fantastic to be online with people over the world. Best regards from Central Europe. My background is plant physiology, and you are looking now at the picture taken by, start my video, okay. You are looking at the picture taken by thermocamera. It was 12 years ago, and unfortunately it's in Czech. Anyway, the dark places, water, forest, then wetlands, they have a temperature under 30 degrees. There is a 30 Celsius. There is a afternoon full sunshine. The places where there is a cut meadow, where there is a short grass, they have a surface temperature above 40 degrees. So there is a big difference in the surface temperature, not depending on reflection, but depending on the ability to evaporate water, because the water evaporation is the most powerful transfer of solar energy into latent heat. And this process is sometimes considered as a water loss, but this is a main condition for the water cycle. Here is more simple diagram which shows difference between the drained field or urban area, some roof, which means the surface which doesn't have much water. You have a solar sunshine which reaches up to 1,000 watts per square meter during clear sunny day. And the distribution of solar energy, it depends on the surface, what we offer to the sunshine. If sun energy comes on the dry surface is heated and temperature increases up to 50 degrees, and air then takes the heat and fast goes ascent up. It is the red arrow sensible heat. If we have a landscape, and here is a cultural landscape with the water, plants, tree, then most part, the biggest part of the solar energy is converted into water evaporation, which we called evapotranspiration. And the water vapor slowly goes up. It's this blue arrow. It reaches several hundred meters. Then dew point, which means from the water vapor, small droplets are created. We call it condensation. Latent heat is released. What is very important, also air pressure drops. We have afternoon rain, and there is a space in the air for incoming of wet air from the ocean. I will ask you first, and then I will tell you the answer. You have 1 liter of water which evaporates. What is the volume? What is the volume of the water vapor from 1 liter of water? 1,200 liters. Once more, you have 1 liter of water and liquid, and if this water evaporates, it takes 0.7 kilowatt hours, and volume is 1,200 liters. Therefore, steam engine works. And this happens very silent around us, and the processors are plants. So Martin stressed the public policy, and I would like to add education. Education in school. And please, it's very simple. Solar radiation, without sunshine, the temperature on the earth would be close to absolute zero. So the atmosphere would be solid. Okay, so we have sunshine, and it's on us whether we offer to the sunshine dry surfaces, then we have desert, or whether we offer water and life. And then we have this scheme made by our colleague Anastasia Makarieva. They explained, so it is well known from history that forest area has a higher precipitation, and there are rivers which flow from forest. It's an experience and practical knowledge. Then there is a science which explains, and these people, Makarieva, Gorshkov, they explain the role of forest by so-called biotic pump. And I mentioned the principle. Forest evaporates water. There is a high relative humidity of air, which very slowly goes up. It reaches dew point after several hundred meters, and you have afternoon rain. There is a drop of air pressure in the air, and then there is a place for the water coming, which we call flying river, from the sea. If we cut forest, if we have dry surfaces, then it doesn't work, and there is a block against the water, against the air with the humidity from sea. Okay.
Thank you, Jan. I really appreciate it.
And one, two sentences more. So what is the main difference between the old water paradigm and new water paradigm? Old water paradigm was practiced in old history, and we practice it, which means get rid of water. And we have drainage, we have the surfaces which doesn't take water, we remove plants, we deforest it. And the new water paradigm says, please encourage and make condition for life, which uses solar energy. And first condition is the water. Astronomers are looking for the water in universe because water is indication for life. And we sometimes just get rid of water, and then we are surprised that our environment behaves like desert. So this is we do the manuals and education, how to say, methods for schools, and allow me, we can do it, because personally I have experienced 40 years of science, measuring photosynthesis, measuring the evapotranspiration, and it is not difficult to understand it. Okay.
Thank you. And this is a new publication that is prepared. So maybe Zuzka, you can say a few words later about
Please,
this.
Zuzka, do it.
You mean now or later on?
Just about this publication, please, if you can say.
So it's very shortly. Whatever Jan has experienced over his last 30 years, over 30 years of scientific research, he has put into more than 200 peer-reviewed studies. So to make it more digestible for schools, and Jan always says this is easy to understand for the 8th grader, and also for city councils, for water cycle practitioners. We are preparing this publication, and we are hoping this should come out early summer.
Thank you. Thank you, Zuzka. Thank you. So we will continue now.
I am no dealer. Anyway, there are such simple instruments. This one measures the solar energy. The other, you know it, it's an infrared thermometer. You can measure effect of plants. So now we can be exact. Okay, many thanks.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Zuzka. And now it's the time to continue. Yes. And Zach, can I continue in the second block, please?
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you. So what was very important was this first block, that we tried just in very short time to say that how important was really a creative and innovative process of understanding that it is not good way of managing water, this old water paradigm. And it was very important to formulate this new water paradigm because it's really beneficial for civilization, beneficial for sustainability, and for planning for daily life. So now I would like to focus a little bit more on the way how we can move from sectoral to integrated nexus planning. Maybe if you know this nexus expression, it is really about interconnection of different things, but nexus in all thinking, it is interconnection of water, soil, plants, and climate, and energy, and food as well. But what is happening in daily life usually is that, for example, our country has a number of different public authorities, different departments, and every department has different competencies. And as you know, it is not easy that different departments work together, because this is, let's say, different minister, different director general. And what we see on the end of the day, and this is probably experience from many countries, that we see that somebody is managing rivers, somebody is managing agriculture, somebody is managing forest, another institution is managing food systems, and other institutions urban planning. And we are in situation that things doesn't work because we have less and less water in the system of all countries. And if we are thinking about implementing this new water paradigm approach into the legislation, into this sectoral system of different ministries, departments, we have to think what are those key points that can help all colleagues, all employees of the institutions and experts to work together. And what is this point is a water cycle. Because water cycle really interconnects the different policies. And at the same time, we have to move from 2D planning, as we have usually now, looking just for some area, but we have to focus and to jump 3D planning. 3D planning means that we are planning in a troposphere area. We are planning about what happens with green water, if there is enough evapotranspiration, if we are decreasing these heat islands on the land, not only in urban heat islands, but agricultural heat islands. But 4D planning means that we are able to monitor it, to see what is happening within 1 year, what is the cumulative impact of these heat islands, what is the cumulative impact of drainage of the available water resources within 1 year from one territory. So 4D planning is really a good perspective, simple to understand, but it will bring our institutions a new approach that our planning is really about managing water cycles, and the landscape is really key for managing these water cycles, especially small water cycles. But we need some metric on the very beginning, and this metric is that we have to manage, to coordinate things somehow. We have to calculate somehow. So those metrics are here. For example, we need to know to have a basic metric, and it is a basic land climate unit. And it is really 1 square meter. I know that in different parts of the world, we have probably other ways of calculations and this metric, but 1 square meter means that it is not only piece of the land, it is not only soil on the land, but it's a climate active piece of the land. And this aspect, climate active piece of the land, means that it provides infiltration, it provides evapotranspiration, and we automatically see and we can calculate and understand what is happening with our land if we are assessing the quality of the land, of soil, and if we are improving the services. Another important base is cadastral area. Cadastral area is very important because it is basic unit of integrated planning. We have different levels of integration, or we have different levels of public administration, like national level, regional level, let's say local level. And but what is very important, this cadastral area is unique one, because usually this is the area and this is the local authority who send you a bill, for example, for local property tax. But on this local level, it is an administrative unit, and this is a part of the watershed. And we automatically know how big area they manage, how many stakeholders they have, and how we can really play with rainwater budget of that particular area. And what is important second is this photosynthesis equation that really speaks that there is permanent interconnection of carbon, water cycle, oxygen cycle, and others one. I'm welcoming Michal Kraučík that joined us, and he will join us later. So thank you, Michal, for joining. So we continue, but what is now key to say is the soil. Soil is the carbon and water bank of the landscape. This concept we try to develop with the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in Slovakia. And on the base of this concept, we really started closer cooperation with the scientific institutions of the ministry, like Forest Institute and Institute for Soil Protection and others one. And we can say within this concept that really soil is a reservoir of water and carbon. It provides a place for vegetation cover, for biodiversity, but at the same time, soil, and especially it is a top layer of the land. It is really area where we transform solar energy, where we transform rainwater to the runoff or infiltration. So it's a part of the micro catchments as well. So really soil and land from that point of view, it's a complex issue, and we are responsible for soil, for landscape features. And if we will improve it, we will improve ecosystem services, and it provides a number of benefits. So this is really crucial area for transformation. So what we need to do is, once we understand that we have to do some assessment of public policies, because how public policies influence water cycles, we immediately know that we have really big deficit in all countries with, for example, landscape structures, because number of landscape features is removed, or soil quality is very bad, or we don't have proper, let's say, mosaic system, or we don't have enough water retention spaces for slowing down the water. So we need to transform these damaged landscape structures to healthy landscape structures with a lot of spaces for water to play, to go slow down. It's a principle from permaculture as well, to work with water. But what is very important, it's fine if we, within all countries, regions, and municipalities, will set up a goal to improve the situation within next decade, next 10 years, because it has really multi-benefits for everybody who is living in that community. It has multi-benefits for groundwater recharge. It has benefits for decreasing the risk. So this is really this integrated approach on the local level, and every square meter of the land has its share. So we can transform the original or damaged landscape structures by two methods. We can transform by adaptation measures, because adaptation measures are those which are one time done. We can really remodel these landscape structures, because we will provide more spaces for water to stay, to infiltrate as well. We will provide more anti-erosion measures, so we will keep and help soil to stay there, not to go to the rivers. And on the other hand, there are management measures, and these management measures, those are measures that we are really implementing all the year. If you are managing that property, that piece of the land, it is very popular, very important is regenerative agriculture, or three forms, probably more forms: agroforestry, no-till farming, regenerative pasture. And very important are other forms like permaculture, natural sequence farming, holistic management, soil structure improvement, and organic fertilizers use. So we see that we have a lot of opportunities what to improve within the year if we are managing not only the land, but the rainwater on the land within the year. So finally, we have to improve the ability of the landscape structures and of the soil to slow down the water, that it will start to work and to place its work on ecosystem services. So there are three numbers I would like just to say: 90, 50, and 10 here. And it is good to remember, because 90 means that we need to have this control line architecture of the landscape structures. We have to think really about organic structure of the landscape that really slow down the water, will use water in a maximum way. 50 cubic meters per hectare means that it's very important and starting point, that it is good if in the planning processes, soil planning, production planning processes, we will involve component that every 5 years we will increase water retention capacity by at least 50 cubic meters. It can be more, yeah, definitely. And if we will improve soil health quality, it will jump, let's say, up to 200, 300 cubic meters per hectare. But what is very important, just to start this process, this positive process, not to go and to have this negative process that every next year we have less and smaller water retention capacity. And 10% means that every hectare of the land, not only big pieces of the land, but every hectare really need to be filled with these landscape features that really plays this role for slowing down the water, for slowing soil erosion. And after then, the system really provides immediately results and benefits. We have some key indicators, and it's very important if these key indicators are managed on a regular basis by public authorities, because public authorities after then can recognize, yes, that there is definitely an improvement of the soil health, and there is an improvement of the situation of groundwater recharge, and we are in a better amount and volume using available rainwater within the year. So, and if we speak about policies, and from moving from sectoral to integrated policies, it's important to say that we have number of strategies, number of papers, directives, and laws speaking about different things and solving things. And usually we have a situation that if there is a one problem or new problem, we will set up a new policy or we will set up a new law. But we are not looking back why this new problem really started. And this is the way that I am trying just to say that on example of European Union soil strategy, that this is a very important strategy, because soil strategy is really about managing assets on the landscape surface. It is about managing soil and its potential for managing water, carbon, organic material, and everything. So, but what is very important to say, water cycle really interconnects all these policies. But water cycle interconnects these policies, but very important is to know that by managing the landscape structures and soil, we are really improving the ability to slow down the water and to return water back. So water cycle interconnects public policies, and it's a very effective way. Once we will assess every public policy, how it influences water cycles, after then we will understand what we can improve. And now there is a third point or third block where I would like to speak about institutional support for land restoration and renewal of small water cycles. And I will do it really briefly, but what is very important to know, if we know that sectoral policies, we can prepare and assess sectoral policies or public policies, how they influence water cycles, if in a negative way or a positive way, or how, and on the basis of this assessment, we will provide some recommendations for policymakers. But what is very important, that there are different levels of this planning. So we have planning on the local level, individual level, regional, national, continental, and global one. But what interconnects all these geographical levels is the available rainwater budget. This available rainwater budget is something very important to know. It's very important to know how much of the rainwater you have available within 1 year. On the basis of that, you start planning what you can do for increasing this water retention capacity for repeated use of available rainwater within the year. And after then, you will really change the policy for a good way. And if we speak about this institutional support for restoration, for land restoration and renewal of small water cycles, from public policy point of view, it means that we need to monitor small water cycles, what is happening between different years. We need to monitor key indicators, because after then we see that some cadastral area or some land plot or some region is really removing water very quickly, and we have to slow down that process. And we can set up a policy that we will set up measures and we'll prepare measures that we will change it to a positive process, not to a negative process. But once we don't know what is really happening, we hardly prepare a new policy. But we have to understand and monitor small water cycles. At the same time, to apply integrated water and soil planning. Integrated water and soil planning is very beneficial, because if we manage soil and if we plan soil resources and soil protection together with available water resources and rainwater, we will manage not only blue water but green water. And immediately we are speaking about managing and returning water back in small water cycles. At the same time, second part of this institutional support is really action. It's management action, adaptation action that I mentioned before. It's very good and it's very encouraging that this, for example, number of these regeneration practices, regenerative agriculture, but number of blue and green infrastructure of nature-based solutions are popular, are on the way. but it's very important that public policies will create for them really very clear and supportive framework that actors, local actors, municipalities, local landowners can really do these measures in a large scale, large amount, because we need these measures, and we need to recognize that these measures will not be only measures or some activities, but it will be a part of the investment. Because by involving these new water retention measures in the landscape or nature-based solutions, we are increasing water retention capacity of soil and landscape structure, what is a public good. So, and the third area of the support is financing, because if we will finance it as an action, because this public interest, we will provide support for the landowner. So to create this innovative mechanism, it is possible, and we will speak a little bit on the end. But this financial aspect of this action is that it is much cheaper than having really hard infrastructure as it was in the old water paradigm. By involving local communities, citizens and regions, rural areas, at the same time with urban areas and citizens, we will be able really to stream huge amounts of the water, rainwater, for ecosystem use, but we will really manage things. This picture is a very simple scheme, but it's speaking that it's very good if you set up a goal. If you set up a goal, you know where to go and what to do, what to achieve. So it's good if there is some action planning, and it's good to know that we can really achieve a lot within few years. So 1 decade planning is an appropriate time that we can really recognize a huge impact, but immediately after implementation of any measures, there are benefits. But we can see that our playground for the action are continents. It is 136 million square kilometers of the land without ice, and every community, every country can participate on regeneration of its land. And finally, if we see this cumulative impact, we can really return a lot of water every year back to the continents to stabilize the situation, to heal the climate, and to provide more water resources. And that is very good message. So, and what we are doing is that we are really doing this integrated planning in this 10 kilometers layer just above the landscape. So this is an example of the program that was implemented and approved by the government in 2010 in Slovakia after big floods. And on this example, you can see almost 500 communities that were involved in the program. And you can see that that many of these communities were neighbors. So finally, if you do this implementation in neighboring communities, you have finally very good positive impact on all watershed which is there. And it means that there are a number of benefits. So another picture is about another achievement, and we were involved in both activities in this landscape revitalization program with Michal Kravčík 14 years ago now. But for example, this is an achievement from Ministry of Agriculture, where we formulated this concept of soil as a carbon and water bank of the landscape. And this concept was transformed to the formulation of the system of valuing and funding soil and landscape ecosystem services as a part of state soil and water policy. That is very important. So once our countries will be able to add this new component of state soil and water policy, we will immediately put attention at the water cycles and at stability of the water cycles. And we set up this system by having 3 pillars, or let's say 3 instruments: soil and soil and water information and monitoring system. Secondly, carbon and water bank certification system. And third, climate fund for soil. What is a financial institution that is helping fund this action? And this certification system is really a very simple model of interconnecting financial market and local stakeholders to support this adaptation and management action. So there are really recommendations for us, but if we would like to improve public policies, we have a number of different ways. if we speak about scientists or engineering point of view, it's very important to validate main forces of the climate change. And now we can really say that if we see what is the impact of improving of the regeneration of landscape structures, of increasing water retention capacity, we see the figures, we can measure it, we can calculate it, and we can really speak with financial institutions and country representatives to see these multi-benefits. We can identify key indicators, we can increase, we can prepare new financial tools, as I said, and these new financial tools will refinance all the action. And we can provide advisory services to farmers, which are very important, not only to farmers, to forest managers, local communities. Very important is that on the base of the assessment of the public policies and impact of the public policies on the water cycles, that on the base of this assessment, we will harmonize funding and policy mechanisms within the country, but not only in national level, but regional and local level. And it includes taxes as well, because there are several taxes on the national level, but for example, property tax on the local level, and property tax on the local level can really reflect if that particular land is in good condition. So we have to say, yes, this is something what we want to have, but if there is another land that is draining all the rainwater away, it's a danger, it's a risk for community and for stability of the climate. So after then, local community can set up higher tax, for example. So it is a kind of another motivation and creating motivation tools. So we have another tools like action plannings. Very important is to integrate things in businesses with circular bioeconomy. In Europe, we have common agricultural policy, and what is very important that this common agricultural policy need to integrate with integrated soil, water, and climate planning, because common agricultural policy is about managing the land. By managing the land, we manage water resources, so it needs to be completely integrated, and there need to be very transparent new funding mechanisms for farmers for their participations on ecosystem services, renewal, on support of ecosystem services, and after then things start to work in a large scale with number of benefits. There is another opportunity, urban planning. Urban planning can really integrate the rainwater budget available within the year. It can really calculate how we will manage available rainwater in a better way in urban areas, just in countryside, but within the cadastral area. Within Slovakia, we had experience where we formulated integrated water resource management principles, but we joined these principles with soil management principles. So really, it's a good way of integration, because by managing land and managing production, managing soil quality, and managing available water, and especially rainwater, we really manage water cycles. And nature-based solutions, and to speak with banks and financial institutions that this is a subject of investment, that is really a game changer as well. So I will be very happy if Zuzka Mulkerin can join me for a while and introduce this picture. Thank you.
Thank you. These authors, the original authors, got together about last year before the UN conference on water, which was the first conference after many years. And that's when they formulated, based on their previous experience, the white paper, a new water paradigm white paper. And they said, why not to write a new edition of our old the new water paradigm, of the original one, not the old one. So out of that became a collaborative effort of many authors. All of them are their friends. They have met Anastasia Makarieva, the author of The Biotic Pump, 10 years ago or more at the conference. And since then, they collaborate together, they learn. They just prepared a conference in Munich together. And there are so many authors, I don't want to name all of them. So this book is still in making. It will be hopefully ready by the end of summer. It's possible some of these authors are on this seminar. I do have to tell you good news. The 2007 New Water Paradigm book was translated into 7 languages. Right now, the new French version is under contract. The other languages were Italian, Korean, I forgot them, French. There is one of the authors is preparing Arabic version, which is really important. There is a language like Farsi. Those are very important languages for the countries which have desertified land. I do have to say, unfortunately, the great mind of the original book, Juraj Kohutiar, passed away, unfortunately, at the end of last year. So that's why it's taking longer. I would like to honor his memory, and I'm trying to coordinate the book on his behalf. He was a great mind who I wish you guys could read in Slovak. He was the author of other books, and he kind of clarified all this into the original book. Unfortunately, also there is Milan, who was who agreed to work on this book, who is in touch with Michael Kravchik, and who left us early, and also Jan Lambert. But we are trying to honor their memory and putting this book together for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zuzka, and thank you for all people participating on this process. And I hope we will be able to finish this book on the end of the year. So we will provide really new insights and new details and a new experience across different continents. Thank you. And I would like just to go to the last block of the presentation, and I would like just to say that what is very important, if we speak about new water paradigm, it is really that we speak about the role of water in the climate system, because we know that water really flows in the large water cycles between continents and oceans, and it means in the small water cycles it really feed green water, it feed air humidity and stability of the climate on the continents. And we see that one of the missing point of the situation in the public discussion was the role of water in the climate system, and we see 2 differences. One difference is, for example, Paris Climate Protocol that was adopted in 2015, and there was very clear message, because we have really quick climate change and really a lot of changes, cascade effects, negative cascade effects. We need to set up really a cooperation, set up goals, and the main focus of this Paris Climate Protocol is on getting and securing carbon neutrality. Carbon neutrality with hope that it will really help us to stabilize the negative situation, and at least to stop the increase of the global average temperatures to 1.5 Celsius or maximum 2 Celsius. But what is very important to say is that within this document there was a missing point, and that missing point was soil and water. If you look for that document, you will not find single word water or soil in the document. So it means that even if there was a very quick preparation of this document, and if we want to achieve really big things, we need to include water and soil in this climate document in the next update. That is very important because there is really photosynthesis equation that is speaking that there is all the time interaction of the water cycle, carbon cycle, oxygen cycle, energy cycle, and production of biomass. So this is a positive process, and we need to include every of these components. And there is really key role of water in the water cycle. And water cycle interconnects 5 major environments of the Earth climate system. So, and what is the opposite process? Not opposite process, but another process that was looking how we will work with water. And we will work with water for the benefit of the climate system. And it is a global action plan for the restoration of natural net water cycles and climate. And this global action plan really integrates water, vegetation, and climate change, and all natural cycles. And it was prepared by Michal Kravčík and Jan Lambert in 2015. And it's very good to know that this paper really works. So this is just an example on the right side of this document. And it is really a system for the coordination of the action on different continents, different countries. There is very clear goal what to do. But before this 2015, a global action plan, there was quite interesting another document published between a new water paradigm in 2007 and up to 2015, and it was Water, Vegetation and Climate Change, a Košice Civic Protocol. And I want to say that this is a very important piece of the documentation, because not only scientists and global institutions are active, but citizens and practitioners and scientists looking for a holistic approach can sit together and formulate these principles, how to work with water for the benefit of the civilization, for the benefit of the countryside, for the benefit of the climate system. And this is the protocol, and I really recommend you to have a look in this piece of the documentation. It was prepared in 2009 for the COP15 in Copenhagen. It's a very good piece of the material. But coming back to the things that Zuzka Mulkerin mentioned, a year ago, we had the opportunity to be with Michal Kravčík in UN Water Conference in New York, and I was very happy that shortly we met with Zach Weiss at the same time at the conference. But for the conference, especially our Slovak team, international team, prepared this water for climate healing, new water paradigm. It's a white paper. It's a short paper for 20 pages, but on these 20 pages, you have really key summary of the problems identifications, key solutions, action planning, and about key components of the small water cycles restoration. It is about role of plants, it's about managing of the rainwater, it's about land policy, and it is about soil as well. And at the same time, this piece of paper speak about algorithm of the water cycle, large water cycles, small water cycles on the oceans, on the continents, as a part of the global water cycle. And as you know, the conclusion of the conference was that there is it is a public good to have a global water cycle, but the global water cycle is out of balance, and we need to secure sustainable global water cycle or stability of the global water cycle. And this paper really, on the base of the previous work of a team of not only New Water Paradigm, but many others, really formulated how we can set up a plan for water cycle restoration, for stability of global water cycle. But speaking about that, when we speak about water, energy, and ecosystems, we can really interconnect them with sustainable development goals. And sustainable development goals, especially these 6, 7, 2, 50, and 13, are directly connected with water, and all others are indirectly connected. So what is very important, if we speak about energy, I would like just to repeat it, it's about transformation and distribution of solar energy. But what is very important to say, And these are last slides that pedosphere, hydrosphere, troposphere, biosphere, and cryosphere are parts of global climate system, and they are really interconnected through water cycles and by water in water cycles. And this is why they need to be included in global climate policy. This is one picture from the conference in New York, and about the things that I mentioned. This white paper is possible to download. And what was quite interesting, one of the sessions in this New York conference was managed by current president of Singapore, Mr. Tharman Shanmugaratnam, and it was quite interesting to meet him in some months later in FAO in Rome, in Italy, and I was quite happy to present him this white paper. And he is one of the men who is member of the Global Commission on the Economics of the Water. And in his presentations, you can really clearly see and listen that he is absolutely aware of that we have available resources to refund all this adaptation action in every country, in every continent, and in this global action plan as well. So because he is, let's say, economist, but he was really supporting this approach of global water cycle restoration and by managing this water in a proper way. And secondly, I took part in another sessions and forums in FAO last year as a deputy minister of Agriculture, and it was very important because I said a very clear plan in these dialogues about water infrastructure that water retention capacity of soil and landscape structures, it is water infrastructure, which is highly decentralized. But we need to have this water infrastructure, this decentralized water infrastructure in the landscape to be prepared for the really different weather events, for extremes of the weather or precipitation, because this water retention capacity of soil and landscape structures will help us to manage the risks and will help us to return water back to the landscape. And second message I mentioned there was by improving this small water cycle circulation and improving this water retention capacity of soil and landscape structures, we are returning water back and stabilizing global water cycles. Those were messages I tried to address in the audience, and there was very welcome feedback and good feedback on these messages. So on the very end, and after then, I would like to invite Michal Kravčík. I would like just to say now it is in last few lines that assessment and financing of soil and landscape ecosystem services as a part of public policy, this is really top global eco-innovation. If we will ask our Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment, let's assess impact of all sectoral policies on water cycles, and let's assess and finance soil and landscape ecosystem services, we really start new era, economical era for adaptation and management action. And at the same time, we have to think that every square meter of the land, every hectare, it has its share on global climate solution. It is a portion, because as you remember on the very beginning, I mentioned this 136 million square kilometers. Just compare it with share of your land that you are responsible or managing. This is your share of responsibility. But we can think that this is a portion of the country, of some country on managing the climate stability or global water stability. And for example, some country has 1 million square kilometers, some country just 100 square kilometers. So we can just understand in a little bit better way what is a huge potential for regeneration of every country, of every community. And a key role, there is a key role of stakeholders, local landowners, citizens, municipalities, because they really manage the land. They can influence this stabilization of the global water cycles. This is what we want to do because this is benefit for them. And Water Holistic Organization, it's a really organization that is focusing on coordinating this expert knowledge and advisory services related to this new water paradigm. But what is very important is forming in these days and weeks consortium and think tank to secure expert and institutional cooperation on building access and use of new water paradigm with a nexus knowledge base. We see and we think that we need to provide access to this knowledge base to everybody. And it's very important that we can work as an international community together, as a policymakers, practitioners, scientists, and at the same time, Water Holistic will coordinate this global action plan. And now I would like to thank you for your attention, and I would like to give a space to Michal Kravčík. Michal, I welcome you. I am happy that you came safely home, and please, it is your space now. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Martin, and thank you all that I will be here and to explain some short introduction. And Martin explained everything, and it is and spoke about his global action plan and what this mean about reality. And we have some research in Slovakia about how annually lost from ecosystem balance of water from small water cycles, and we create this global concept, what is mean for reality. And listen, in globally it is annually lost from ecosystem on the from continents about 760 cube kilometer of fresh water, and this is our contribution to sea level rise. And with water loss from ecosystem, and the result is imbalance between water budget on the continent and increasing of water budget on the salt water on the ocean. And on the case of Slovakia, we create this very simple ideas how to starting to regenerate and to invest money and motivate to people to harvest of rainwater to the ecosystem, because we know that every land, forest, agriculture, and urban ownership are ownership, and it is responsible for to capture of rainwater. And globally, it is huge, massive water. But if we are divided on the population of planet Earth, it is about 100 cubic meter of rainwater, which are lost every year per person from continent to sea. It is contribution to sea level rise and lost water from ecosystem. And the whole this idea is very simple, to create plan on the public reality, public policy, on the citizen movement, of the expert group, scientific and so on, to starting to harvest and support rainwater harvesting to the ecosystem. And if we will implement it, because it's to create water retention measures around 100 cubic meters is a job for 1 week per person, which mean if we will be tomorrow starting every from us, after 1 week we can be completely success to change of reality, which are very dangerous for us. If we will be create this model, results will be to restore of water sources and globally, to prevent to water crisis, prevent to agricultural crisis, prevent to climate crisis, prevent to social and economical crisis. It is very simple solution. And another is about influence from this restoration of balance of water in small water cycle, means to decreasing global temperature about 0.77 degrees annually, average temperature and globally. It is a very simple solution, and I would like to be please let's go to cooperate for this global needs which will be implemented. And we create with this model which are on the like for technocrats guys which are deeply understanding about this what is mean rotor, or what is its mechanism or machines. And water rotor means it is to harvest again rainwater to the like universum, to central of our life, and we create with support photosynthesis, and with photosynthesis starting to harvest, absorb solar energy together with capture of CO2, together with thermoregulation, together with creation of natural resources, creation of great possibility for food, biodiversity, climate, and soil regeneration, and so on. And from this we'll be starting to develop with human sources, like by education, social, health, culture, research, and results will be financial growing of reach of communities everywhere in Tanzania, in Namibia, in Mauritania, or in Greece, in India, in Australia. And this system will be developed technological resources and info sharing of information, and the result is completely success, good condition for all from us, and we can to be helped. Old climate paradigm, it is strongly very sectoral, thinking only for CO2, and we need to be open eyes for wider horizontal link in nexus between water, energy, carbon dioxide, and energy system, and life cycle, and results will be a really great possibility to restore of better condition and perspective for our life, for sustainability of planet Earth, with a great security, because one problem about which are just now growing conflict in every different place around the globe, it is results from scarcity of water on the system. And more rainwater harvest to ecosystem create better condition for life, for harmony, for interaction between people, and between people, nature, and climate system, and sustainability. Please help for that, and we are open to cooperate and to support this global movement which we are responsible. Responsible for that are not only people around the scientific community, not only politicians, but we are responsible too, and please help for that. And I will be happy if we can to give chance for a next generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michal. Thank you very much for my colleagues for having a common presentation and contributions. And Zach, we are returning back to you the words and communication. Thank you for attention for all people around the world. Thank you for your work and your effort, really.
Fantastic presentation to all of you. I want to thank you so much for your work in this space and what you shared here today. It's you guys do such a fantastic job of putting it together in a package that's so simple, so logical, makes so much sense to all of the parties involved. And I think this is why it's been gaining such traction, really. And if you think about the things that you guys have accomplished in a pretty short period of time, it's pretty incredible. And I think we're just at the start of this wave of change that's coming as people start to see how we can engage with water in a new way and how we can work with water to heal landscapes. So now is a good time to open it up to questions from everyone that's here. You can enter them into the Q&A. You can enter them into the chat. If you've entered a question in and you want to ask it with your voice, please raise your hand. And Raleigh, do you want to add anything before we get into the Q&A?
Oh man, I mean, I've been so inspired by the new water paradigm. It's one of the lessons that really changed me from despair to hope in terms of that we could actually start repairing our ecosystems through our relationship with soil and water. Because before learning about it, you think the climate is just acting upon us. There's nothing we can do unless we suck 100 billion tons of carbon out of the atmosphere. But if you can act on the water cycle, if you can restore forests, if you can slow down water and capture it, then your community can make a difference. You can make a difference. And so it's so impactful seeing Michael and Jan's and Martin's work and what's been done, what was done in Slovakia with these thousands of rainwater catchment systems and what was done to repair the ecology there. I think it's a model for that any of us anywhere can do this. And that's what we're trying to show here in Water Stories is it's not just up to the governments, it's really small communities can do this. But man, it certainly helps if we can partner with public policy and have incentives to actually support this work. So why don't we get some questions? Zach, anything you want to say?
Yeah, and I got one pulled out here, but one thing I just want to highlight too that you guys shared that I thought was so important is we can't manage what we don't measure, but we don't even measure the land use changes and their impact on hydrology. So how on earth could we manage that? Yet we're very management heavy on that without it's like, walking in the dark. We just have no idea the consequences of our actions. So I think that was a really important point. And I love how you brought that it can also help us isolate communities where this is especially important, where we need to do it very quickly and very urgently. And that gives a lot of leeway to provide financial and support incentives from public sector to help that. One of the first questions that came up here that I think is really going to apply to everyone as well, but talking about what would you advise us as citizens to do in order to accelerate these changes in this conversation? In my country, Greece, there isn't even a public debate about climate change. The environment is not even an issue in the political discourse. So how can people help raise this question to public sector, to their peers? What would you guys suggest?
Yes, if I can react, for example, a situation in Greece is really not easy because we know that country is facing on one hand droughts, but on the other hand really very severe floods on the end of summer, and it happens every year. And with mega fires or fires, that is really completely devastating the landscape structures. And we had the opportunity with Michal Kravčík 2 years ago, I think 2.5 years ago, and we were invited by Slovak ambassador in Greece to come to Athens, and we met local representatives and regional representatives who had really problems because there were really big fires just around Athens. And when we saw the situation, and they agreed in a really collaboration of all experts from Slovakia and local experts and local regional authority, we set up a team that worked together for 1 week. And within this 1 week, they were able to implement the Slovak team several measures, and that were as an example what can happen in and what we can do in a forest after mega fires. And they immediately recognized that it has really anti-erosion role, it has water retention measures. And I was really happy to see after half year coming back that there was a water in that forest, really on the top of the hill. And I think these local representatives were very happy. So later on that, Michal prepared a special analysis for Greece, and we will be very happy to work together with practitioners and scientists from Greece on sharing this knowledge. And maybe Michael say a few words.
Yeah, it's we develop this methodology how to analyze landscape, damaged landscape, and what is potential and what is necessary to do. Because just now we are on the connection with one great guy from Tulsa University about this research of Sahara Desert process. And we find on the satellite picture is like water retention measure, which are old more than 5,000 years. And big question is about why is desert just now? Because problem is about to, like you, Zach, or another guys, make something to do on the local communities, but it is not on the systematical approach. And in this time, 5,000 years ago, implemented some farmers the same ideas to rainwater harvesting to ecosystem for creation better conditions for producing of some agricultural food. And it's I think, like Martin said, why we need to push on the political guys to implement public policy, to invest money that rainwater is not waste. Rainwater, it is gift from God, which we need using for our life, and after using, return to God. It is very simple solution about that. It will be implemented only some small communities and on the disadvantaged condition and so on. It is really hard, but if we will be create global movement, after that will be politicians guys starting to think, oh, it's very good solution. It is I can to be win on the election and so on, and after that it is good, because it's we need to create this system which will be starting to harvest every rainwater on the ecosystem, and after that will be good. Because it's, for example, if I just now in this moment I'm looking on the Spain about this peninsula, whole peninsula, it is I am completely shocked how was lost of water from small water cycles, and scientific communities don't speak about that. I don't understand why. And physics scientific guy make research about molecule of atoms and so on. But if you are calling to some hydrological scientists, don't know, only know that it is small water and big water cycle exists. It's nothing more. And how is interaction, how is working, how is influence of society on the states of water in the nature, and for example in some in African territory it is some curious reality, and it's cutting of trees because trees pumping water from ecosystem, and this water need people. Because it's classical hydrological speaking, that it's water which are vapor to atmosphere is lost. And forgot for that it is water, it is on the interaction in water cycle. And this water which are vapor by vegetation to atmosphere, after condensation return again to ecosystem. And a process on the Spain, which are just now trying to explain to our reader of New Water Paradigm, it is really, really some high level of urgent problem of the degradation of small water cycle, because we are learn on the geography, on biology, and some different schools level that it's water. It is we have water. It is we are only create some statistical data which are inform us how much water we can to use for our life, for our agriculture, for our water supply community and so on, but nothing more. And what will be tomorrow, how to return to increase balance of water on the system, we are not speaking about that. And problem about scientific community is this big lost from deeply understanding about reality, what are happening around us, because it's it is interesting to have statistical data about annual precipitation, monthly precipitation, but we need how this system working in time and space. And it is a big challenge for all of us to not only to starting to theoretical debate, but if we know that water which are follow down to ceiling space, to my urban zones, and just now is runoff to channel, to river, and to sea. It is water loss from system and accumulate to sea, and it is water from sea, not vapor, more water. Only it's completely dependent on the reality of energy from sun. But from if you're looking on the climate expert guys and with people speaking that it's potential evapotranspiration is growing. But what is mean about potential evapotranspiration from desert zones? Because real evapotranspiration is decreasing. And we need to know about real evapotranspiration and what is mean for to make cool effect. And we are still speaking that it's influence on climate change to water sources on the nature and so on. But we need to reverse influence from human activity to land management practices and to increase of change of thermoregulation system. And if you looking on official data about climate scientific guys, and I was last time in completely shocked that it is greenhouse effects from land management practices is decreasing. It is real after 1960, when it is from 1960 just now is growing 3 times more population. How much urban place was grow? How much deforestation place was grow? How much dry up of lands was grow in its last 60 years? This is about the reality, and we are only like imagine theory and without the reality, and we just now on the shock that it is last 3 months. This is extreme overheat of planet Earth.
Michal,
Yeah.
I would like to thank you, and I would like just to say that I know that there are a lot of questions from people, and they are asking what is the situation in that particular country. And I would like to say that this is something what is a subject of our international cooperation, because if we can really exchange the knowledge, have an international exchange, we can really identify really those change makers in local communities. We can identify change makers in the public government who are willing to do a different way of the public policy, because we have really big trouble. And I know that by working together and working together on different projects, scientific projects, innovation projects, we can really get a good picture what is happening in every country, what is the capacity, who are really the contact persons, who are the key institutions to work together. Because sometimes there are institutions that are not probably the biggest institutions, scientific institutions in that particular country, but they have very important knowledge and really people who really want to work on that issue. And if we will encourage people in this international exchange on applying this new water culture, new soil culture, I'm sure that things start to change. So I wanted just to say that people are working with this concept of new water paradigm. We are probably, let's say, 10 to 15 years in advance of the time. I am really speaking about that. And it's what is really important for us is to use this time, because this time, if we will use it really effectively for the benefit of the countries, for people, for the stability of the climate, we will show the way how to transform things in a peace dialogue, in a communication, in a building this capacity in every country. Thank you.
Really? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Zuzka, please.
I just want to chime in for a second. There are questions if the governments of some kind of Greece or Slovakia adopted these policies. I just want to point out to the forest behind me. Sorry, don't know how to do that. That's a young forest. That picture is probably that forest is 10, 15 years old. However, I know how to do this. This was burned. This area was completely burned by the fires. And about this time a year ago, we had fires here in Canada, and I am here in New Jersey, and we had orange skies all the way down to New Jersey. However, this forest was really just doing by the water retentions measures, like there is one behind Raleigh right now. So that's how the forest grew in 10, 15 years. I think, yes, we are waiting for the countries to adopt these measures, but this particular community is benefiting from the decentralized solution.
Really amazing stuff. And I want to just add the point that while it might seem really hard because of how bad things are right now, that also provides us an opportunity that has never existed before, where the average person can see this makes no sense. Why are wildfires worse and drought is worse, but flooding is also worse? So we have more water, but less water. And it's a really great time to help show this clear, logical, simple narrative. And if our conventional systems were working, there wouldn't be reason for change. But now it's more and more apparent every year for people to say, the practices that got us here, we shouldn't keep doing because they're not taking us in the right direction. And so I think I really like what you all shared. And I think this is a really important time to help others understand what's possible here and how our conventional approaches are resulting in the challenges that we're facing. And land use is a the major part of that we're almost entirely ignoring in our public discourse right now. We've got so many good questions that are coming in. Sonia, I see you have one. Would you like to ask your question with your voice? I can ask it for you if you prefer not, but you can unmute yourself if you'd like as well.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Cool. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for this amazing webinar. So interesting. So thank you. I have a question for Marty, because right in the beginning of your presentation, you were talking about the different changes that you did and that caused the change in the ecosystem. And one of the things you mentioned was dividing the land in smaller parcels. So like here in Portugal, they are working the other way around. There are policies in place that actually stimulate people to have bigger plots. So like if someone is selling, the neighbor that has the bigger plot has the preference for buying, for instance. So the idea is to get bigger plots of land and less landowners. So how does that interfere with this water management and the policies?
Yes, thank you. That was an important question. This is the problem of many countries, and the same in Portugal, but probably in Slovakia, it's a very specific problem because we have really extremely high fragmentation of the ownership, really. If you can imagine, if somebody has 5 children, 5 children will get one piece of the land, it will be divided in 5 pieces, and if you can imagine in 3 generations, this is 50 pieces of the land, one piece. So it's unmanageable from point of view of ownership. And this is problem of land consolidation in Slovakia. But I wanted to say that there are 2 different things. One thing is ownership. So it is quite good if there is a way that somebody owns the land because it can manage that land in a better way. That's positive process. But I was speaking about dividing the landscape structure. I was speaking that we need to really return back different landscape features, some morphology. We need to remodel the landscape so the landscape really can benefit in maximum way from rainwater, and it can really place a number of these ecosystem services. So I wanted just to say that this is something what is very important that will be recognized by public policy authorities, that introducing back and returning back these landscape structures, it's something very welcome, even if there is one landowner, because as I said, every square meter of the land plays its role and it has its share on the solution. And we had acquired an experience that well, some in the land consolidation in Slovakia, there was a process that yes, you will get your consolidated piece of the land, let's say 1 hectare or 2 hectares, but there will be some extra piece of the land where we will reintroduce some landscape features, you know. And I think it is not very logical, because we need to have landscape features and good morphology on every piece of the land. So, and we need to support landowners for keeping these landscape features on the land. We need to support them that they maintain that landscape features, because they maintain common ecosystem services, common good, for the benefit of all the watershed, for the benefit of neighboring communities, for benefit of neighbors. So that is a change in the public policy perception. So yes, it's good if we will consolidate ownership, but on the other hand, let's do it maximum mosaic, maximum morphology and place. And it's very important that land plays with water and makes maximum effect of ecosystem services and will create climate landscape that is very important, that can breathe, can really cool, can work with water. Thank you.
Nice. I like this question from Sam. It's asking, how important has central or local government investment been to achieve what happened in Slovakia? Or was it the people who raised the money to build these water retention structures?
The program in Slovakia measures that were built, they had a different source of funding. For example, measures built in 2010 and 2012, they were combination of the funds for unemployed people. Approximately 40% of the funds were funds really for getting unemployed people to the work. It is really something very similar as there was a New Deal project 100 years ago in the United States to get not only people employed, but to restore the nature ecosystems. That was very similarity. Second very important thing was that Prime Minister Mrs. Radičová, in the time of implementation of the program, together with the government, they allocated a sufficient budget for the action. It was another part of the funding, let's say another 50% of the funding. And I think some very minor funding there was maybe from local communities or some other sources. So there it was different multi-source funding. But what is very important, within 1 year, it was possible to involve, let's say, 7,000 people in the work. It was possible to involve number of engineers, number of local mayors, and to increase this water retention capacity within these landscape structures, within these 488 communities by 10 million cubic meters within 1 year, and with total cost 42 million euros. And that is very important because the methodology was proposed really by Michael, that need to be very clear, very simple method how we will source these things. And there was very clear methodology that every community got 4 euros per 1 cubic meter of water retention measure created from public funds. And it started to work. Michael, if you can say a few words from your experience. Just put microphone.
when we started with the implementation of this program, we are trying to find some simple mechanism for understanding for ordinary people. And we find that it is not necessarily divided, for example, money for preparation, money for implementation, money for evaluation, and so on. And we create a system which was very simple and push to people to be more effective. And we, after analyzing, decided that €4 per creation of 1 cubic meter of water retention measures is enough. And why? Because if you will be give more, will be after that, oh, it's not my problem. It is problem about these people which are will be control whole mechanism. This is one. Second, we create with, if you are using this money only for evaluate, you need to implement, but it's your problem, responsibility to implement, because it is you are responsible for results, not for process. And the result, it is creation 1 cubic meter of water retention measures. And it's one. If you will be create this mechanism, for example, indicator how much water retention measures implement, you will be create maybe 100 water retention measures, but without good effectiveness system. And we have a lot of very funny story from reality feedback, and with motivation only for €4 was have influence on the decision making of ordinary people to find space which will be more effective with creation small job, with creation more water retention measures. And we have some communities which have a plan was for every community creation in first etap 30,000 cubic meter of water retention measures, and some community create 38,000, 42,000 cubic meter water retention measures. And I have one curious example about creation of 78,000 cubic meter of water retention measures, because these people decided, oh, it is great. Just now we have a simple solution we are implement, and in next year we obtain another money, and we will be we have results. But new government stop everything, and this is about reality. And one problem, and it's question from this auditorium, is about why was this program didn't prolong, because it was extremely cheap and very effective and without corruption.
If I may, I will just summarize it. So I don't remember exactly the details, but the first budget was 40 million euros or Slovak crowns. I forgot.
Euros.
42 million euros.
Yes.
It's a lot of money, but if you think about the country, it's a small budget. If you're here in the United States, I am not speaking about other countries, but 40,000. I'm sorry, I apologize, 40 million euros to restore the watersheds, right? So within 3 months, they found 500 mayors of various municipalities, which said, well, I know how to use the money. We are flooding, this is the area where we're flooding. We need to stop that. And we think we know how to retain 40,000 cubic meters, and they did within a year. So yes, it's a lot of money, but the genius of this project is that it galvanized 500 mayors, and they got the job done within a year and a half, which is pretty good deal.
I would like to, Zuzka, I would like just to say that there were some other funds, coming to water retention measures in Slovakia, let's say from European Union funds or from Norwegian mechanisms. For example, there was very nice example of project, for example, focused on schools. And from every district in Slovakia, we have, let's say, 80 districts, was selected one school, and school was implementing project of management of rainwater. So that was very good educational project, because from this school, really parents, they got information, wow, this is something important, and really children really like it. This moment, wow, we can manage rainwater in a better way. And that was the project that we suggested 14 years ago to Norwegian embassy in Slovakia to implement in Slovakia. But I think it's very important to speak about other funds, because, for example, we have a huge sector, financial sector in Europe, putting funds within this ETS funds. Those are funds, related to CO2 emissions. But just to give you an idea, that those are really huge amounts of the funds. But the second half of the market, which is non-ETS market, really is a huge potential. But what is very important, if we will come to the very, very small figures, finally, the plan that was proposed for Slovakia was a plan, and still is plan, to increase water retention capacity by 250 million cubic meters within 10 years. And if we will calculate with €4, it is 1 billion, let's say. But this is planned for 10 years. If we will divide it really in figures in a small year, it is, let's say, 100 million within 1 year. But just imagine, this is not about this funding. This is about saving ecosystems and decreasing the risks that we will get. So if we will calculate available public funds funding this program within 10 years, there is no problem. Because if you know how much of the money is, in the state budget, regional budget, and local budget, we are really speaking about minimum funding. And what is very important to say, for example, in the standard statistical system of economy, GDP, gross domestic products, doesn't include, specific figure how much of this GDP was this year funded, focused on service, ecosystem services. You will not get this idea. So I think we will be really on a good way if we really, economists will start to calculate these figures, because they will find that this solution, ecosystem restoration of water cycles and land rehydration, is a very cheap, a very effective system to decrease multi-risks that we have now. So from economical point of view, I am coming back to the Singapore president. As I mentioned in my presentation, he said he knows that there is plenty of funds to fund this action. We need to coordinate, we need to work together, we need to innovate our public policies, work together with change makers to bring this new approach to update policies. And I think that on the end of the day, politicians will be surprised that within 1 or 2 or 3 years, we can really achieve the results. Not about 3 generations, no, next year, second year, third year. And that is very positive message that politicians can see very positive, very quick results. Yes, we have to coordinate, we have to work together, all engineers, all institutions, that's a part of the job, dialogues and steering committees. But very important is that we have results on the end of the day, on the end of the year. Thank you.
Awesome. A good structural questions from an awesome soil scientist, D.D. Pershouse. It's about if you have a very steep slope near a road, will installing a water retention measure like a check dam erode that, or would it be safe to implement those along the road?
I think it is all the time from place to place. So if there will be some very specific question, so just please let's get this information that we can have a look, if there is very specific. But I can say that within our community, we can really say the best available solution for that particular case, you know, if we will get more closer data. Thank you.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I think this is one of the pieces that's a little bit why the uptake of this has been slow or slower than we would like, I should say, is that it's all very localized. You really have to read that specific landscape, understand what's happening there, what changes you might want to create to understand the best way to make those changes. And so it's a little bit of understanding and nuance that's very different from our engineering heavy way of thinking, where you just put in the concrete, you just put in the pipes, and it's all going to be okay. I think this is why, all of the education and outreach is so important, because this is something that people need to participate actively in their landscape on a local level. It can't really be, an edict from the top of how to do certain things or why to do certain things. Janae, you have a question you asked and you have your hand up. Would you like to unmute and ask?
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. Yeah, I like so much your presentation. It's wonderful. Yeah. So I'm from Kazakhstan. We have a lot of problems with water resources now, with floods. And at the same time, last year, we had a lot of droughts. So it's a big problem. A lot of people concerned about it. I read a lot of just concern from other countries. So, and my question is related to strategy, what our government is going to do. So it's quite confusing. As far as understood, your strategy to decentralize and to have small pond and just a chain of the collected water collection systems. And in our country, in Kazakhstan, actually, our government is going to build huge dams and collect water in huge dams. So it looks like it's unsustainable. And I'm just thinking how to adapt your approach. What's your suggestion? How we can convince our government to somehow decentralize instead of building this centralized huge dams? Actually, it's the same problem in Central Asian countries. And I think one of the problems that there's huge banks like World Bank, Asian Development Bank, they like to finance huge dams. And I think maybe it's easy for them to finance huge dams instead of supporting this, your approach, for example, to finance your programs to have a decentralized system. Can you elaborate about this issue, please? Thank you, Martin.
This is really a very common issue, that the old water paradigm was focusing on blue water, and this is why I proposed the big dams. You know, that's we really need some dams, some reservoirs of the water, but it doesn't work for long run, and it really comes and brings us to collapse, because once we are focusing all the available resources only on one dam, you are removing the community and you are not taking this ecosystem renewal of all river basin. That is much bigger, and that river basin creates really climate as well. And this is why it's very important to have this ecosystem approach. And I know that it needs a dialogue. It needs really an exchange of experiences between countries. It really needs maybe to start with some model cases as well. And maybe, Michal, if you can just add this, because this is something very, very, very important for every country in the Middle East, Asia, in Africa, just know how to play, how to work, with big dams or decentralized solutions. Definitely, we need to revitalize landscape structures on the local level everywhere, because every square meter, every hectare has its share, and participate on stabilization of hydrology and climate and weather situation. And what is very important, to find a proper balance. We have to focus on green water as well, not only on blue water. And there is a big story between rainwater falls down once it is formed to river, and this is all place for working and for the regeneration. Michal.
Yes, I was 20 years ago in Kazakhstan, in Almaty, on a conference about water security for Central Asia. And I really thank you for your question. And last weeks I look about this trouble and flooding situation in Orenburg in North Kazakhstan. And when I was on this conference in Almaty, I proposed one idea how to start to restore a small water cycle from north part of Kazakhstan, because north part of Kazakhstan, it is water flow to North Sea, to Russian territory and to in river basin. And the problem is about this degradation of Aral Sea. It is really, from my point of view, I think Jan Pokorny can to explain deeply, to creation massive heat island, which create completely new reality, which was growing on the central part of Kazakhstan with creation of massive rainfall in Tian Shan and in north part, not in central part. And I read one research results from Georgia, from Caucasus, which work one guy from Australia and find some very interesting reality in long-term processes about degradation of water cycle, precipitation distribution, and thermoregulation on the ecosystem. And this guy find this knowledge is about degradation of natural lakes in Caucasus region. And one problem, and long term, about 12,000 years, because he have implement some methods from pool methods explain of reconstruct of climate system in last 12,000 years. And what it is necessary to understand for reality, this problem in Kazakhstan is historically, if you are looking in your flag is blue, and in central part is sun, and which means it is in history you have a lot of water everywhere. And problem about degradation in history, and especially after the desertification process from Sahara, from Persia to central part of Asia, it is results about degradation of landscape and with growing of more and more damaged landscape, which are lost water and starting to overheat of land. And overheat of land starting to decreasing chance to produce of rainfall. And I think it is your position and your chance and challenge for Kazakhstan. It is completely dependent on the starting to from south part to restore nature, and from north part, and to decreasing chance to growing of a huge, massive heat island like in US. US is the same problem. In its central part is its completely huge, massive heat island, which is extremely dangerous for degradation of whole water system in central part of America. The same in Kazakhstan. It is my personal explain. And it's I am deeply thinking about this, because my friend, which are I was in couple months ago with your ambassador in Bratislava, and we are spoke about that with my colleague, which just now I think it's in Turkestan, and trying to helping for people to understand about the challenges for Kazakhstan. And it is really possible, because this problem about this is massive flooding, like just now was couple weeks ago in North Kazakhstan, is historical flooding. It is the result about this concentration on massive vertical clouds on the sky. And the result, it is this raining is followed down in smaller and smaller place with a massive intensity of water. If we will be with clouds, was more horizontal space on the sky. After that, with this decreasing of precipitation with a lower intensity. And people need know, and this is about problem of small water cycles. Maybe Jan can to more deeply explain about this.
Thank you. I was several times in Kyrgyzstan, and Ashgabat Central Asia is example of the development of civilization. But to be short, the dry land looks innocent. You cannot lose water from dry land, but it's not true, because dry land sunshine heats it to 60 degrees, and then you have high speed ascending air, which has 40-50 degrees, which has a low relative humidity, but high amount of water, and it transport water too high, that then dew point is not reached, and this is way how we dry out. Therefore, and then we look at small fish pond, wetlands, forest, saying, oh, they are losing too much water. It is because we have large, big heat islands. I think it's all because Michael said it clearly. So restore water cycle. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, I think there's two questions I can try to combine into one, and I feel like that's a good place to close this off. Unless Zach, you want to do more. There's a question from Hosea and Nick, but I'll just condense into the one question. So why do you think there's been hesitation from governments to accept the action on the new water cycle, to accept policies to implement new water cycle restoration projects? And the second part to that is, what has been the best way you've seen to fund these projects?
What is the best way to fund this project? Yes, do I understand right?
Yeah, I think, how about before we go that why has there been hesitation from the government to implement small water cycle restoration projects?
Okay, yes. Okay, first half of the question. Many times we are facing the problems of political and scientific and expert discontinuity. This is an example of our country that after a change of every government, next government will change completely all the directors of institutions, all the directors of divisions of everywhere, and very rarely is able to say that something from the previous government was good, But in this way, we are not able to save the planet, let's say. In that way, we are not able to save the land. So this is why we think it's very important to secure continuity of the work on the land. And therefore, it's very important to know that involvement of local people, local communities, local stakeholders is much more stable, than changes on the central governments. So from that point of view, we achieved really significant results. For example, not only 12, 14 years ago with this landscape revitalization program, but I tried within my position as a deputy minister to support dialogue within European Union about soil strategy, and we achieved really a lot. So because we tried to open the eyes that how important is to interconnect soil and water policy, and planning, and how important is to include it in common agricultural policy. So this is just an example that we can do a lot, but this continuity is really frustrating. But we can achieve a lot by working together internationally, because we can really provide consultancy, we can provide exchange. And what is very important, there are a number of financial mechanisms available around the world which are trying to support, let's say, some innovation action or some model cases, pilot cases, replication cases, and that those are very important because we have to use them, we have to encourage others to go on, but to have a system really on the national level, or let's say internationally, but let's say at least on the national level, it's important that every country or maybe some region will create a sufficient system of supporting these ecosystem services, because there is enough funds, on this financial market, not only in companies, but citizens, but local communities and public funds in a combination, and on the other hand, the stakeholders. So this is why we created this system in Slovakia with the certification system, and we are preparing this system maybe for other countries as well. But there are a number of other systems around the world, different types of credits, that are available. But sometimes we need much more robust system, a much more robust system to invest in adaptation measures and in supporting these management measures, this long-term process of keeping these structures. So that was the first question, and second half of the question, if you can repeat.
Well, the second half was, what are some of the best ways that you've seen for people to fund these types of projects? Earlier, you presented that,
Yes.
the water retention project, Slovakia were kind of like a government jobs program that employed thousands of people, and the benefit was these amazing water retention structures. But what are other ways that you've seen people have funded?
Yes. Oh, I understand. I wanted to say that what is very important is the angle of the view on the nature-based solutions. Banks, for now, do not see nature-based solutions or remodelation of the landscape, or let's say self-help improvement, as an asset, or they don't see it as an investment point of view. Wrong. We are definitely in a situation, if we would like to decrease flood and drought risks everywhere in the world, we have to implement these measures in a proper way, in a large scale, really, to decrease these risks and to improve use of the rainwater available. And we need to recognize these measures as an investment issue. And once we will recognize it, and banks will recognize it as an investment issue, not only one-time investment, but managing these structures and increasing further improvement of this water retention capacity, after then, this will become immediately factor of the funding and interest of the businesses as well. So I think there is a really very small line between those recognition, and we are now a big debate, World Bank and different institutions, about nature-based solutions. That is very important, but they need to become a part of water infrastructure, highly decentralized. And once it is coordinated in some particular area, it needs to be recognized as an investment issue, because this investment is the same investment as you will buy, for example, your family house, or you will buy, some another building, because this is investment in managing public good. And managing public good, it means managing rainwater in a proper way for the benefit of the country, nations, and global stability. So I think there need to be some dialogue maybe, but I think these global institutions need to make some step towards our community to understand how helpful we will be for every country in the world.
That's a really important and huge point. And you think that whereas a normal investment, it actually gets less in value as it ages, this is something that's just going to increase in value year after year as we put it in. And so it's so important. We look at economics as their own thing, but economics is based in ecos, our home, our ecosystem, our biology, and it all depends on water. You'd be hard pressed to find any measure of economics that at some point doesn't go back to water. And so we can have more of this foundational building block of life or less of it. And I think it's a really critical investment for the future, where when we take the first step, nature takes the next 10. And so we actually get a much greater return on this investment than banks and financial institutions are used to, but we need to help them understand that clearly. And so I think that's a really important point. I want to give some space for each of you guys to leave us with some closing remarks, if you'd like. We're almost 2.5 hours in. This has been an amazing webinar. I want to thank each of you for sharing everything that you have here today, for the work that you have done and are continue doing, and it provides such a great model and example for others to follow. You guys have really been the trailblazers in terms of public policy, I think, and how to do that in a successful way. And it's so inspiring and hopeful to see how you're continuing to evolve and adapt based on the learnings and the experience that you have. So I don't know who would like to go first or last. And also for everyone, this will be recorded. It'll be available in the community. It'll be available on YouTube. So don't feel like you have to scramble down all the resources now. This will all be available afterwards as well. And we'd love to hear some final thoughts for the day from each of you, if you'd open to it.
Maybe for me, it's very difficult to say in some closing remark, but I think it's very important to say that there is a big hope. There is a big hope that we can really change the situation within the communities, within the regions, and within the countries where we live. Because if you will calculate your share on the solution, this is the size of your property, size of your cadastral area, size of your region, this is something that you can really influence. And by working together internationally, we are really able to improve public policies. By practice, we are able to involve other citizens to see that we can decrease the risks that we are facing now, and at the same time for the sustainability and for our children. Thank you.
So may I, from here is Jan Pokorny. I saw that the comments that more water vapor could mean higher greenhouse effect. However, it is measured that we are getting more and more sunshine because we have less and less clouds. So if we have higher evaporation, we would have more clouds, less sunshine, and not desert climate. And the hope is in the combination solar energy, water, and life, and primary production are plants. Thank you very much for this evening. Bye-bye.
And I very short remark, more water in the nature, water which are run off away to sea, we need to return to vapor because it's lost. And every cubic meter which are vapor to atmosphere consumes 700 kilowatt hours of solar energy and make cool effect. It's a very simple solution. If you have a house and from your house annually lost 100 cubic meter, and with your house was built, for example, 20 years ago, which means 2,000 cubic meter lost from your house to flow to away to outside from your territory. And it is massive, a lot of energy, because it's every house annually consumed about 5,000 kilowatt hours of energy, and 1 cubic meter of vapor to atmosphere consumes 700 kilowatt hours. It's very simple to understand how can to consume of solar energy not transport to sensible heat, but to latent heat. And with latent heat by vapor water flow to cold zones and make cool effect here. And please, people thinking for that. Thank you.
I also would like to thank you, everybody. I knew Jan will not let that comment fly, that evaporation is not good. I just want to remind that the basic of this seminar will be also summarized in those books, which will be available at Water Holistic website, and hopefully at the Bio for Climate website, where I volunteer as a Voices of Water program director. And I want to thank you, Raleigh and Zach, for organizing this. I did love your comment. We take a step and nature takes the next 10. I think when there is conundrum about how to finance all of this, I think we can rest assured that all the headlines which will show up this year again, $1 billion aware disasters, will avoid communities which will invest into water and soil restoration in their regions. And so, yeah, I think that will summarize it. And thank you all you do, everybody who attended this seminar.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. And I want to also remind everyone that these are things in existence all around the world. The people here all have a wealth of projects and examples. There's stories from every corner of the world that help build this narrative and show examples of what's possible and how to do it and how people benefited from it. And this is exactly why we created Water Stories. So check it out, share these stories, share this webinar with your friends, share this story with others so that we can all work together to create a better common future.
That's right. Be part of the butterfly effect. One rain garden, one gabion, one check dam, one talk in your community. You can cause that rain happening in another continent